What's up? This is Ben Llewellyn, and many of you have asked me to take at least a look at Irish, a language I don't speak, but because of my Welsh, I could absorb it quite quickly, I think. So this is for all of you who have mentioned that. Now, caption, I don't speak Irish, but I've looked at Old Irish in previous studies, and, well, the language changed a lot since then. It has a K system, which Welsh does not. A K system like German and Latin, Polish, all have that. But what we're going to do in this video is we're going to listen to someone, a couple guys speaking Irish. I'm going to watch, and we're going to watch together as we look at them. Then we're going to look at the animals, see how those are, how close they are in these two languages, both Celtic languages, opposite branches, but both Celtic, and just the numbers really quickly, and 3 sentences. Let's have a look at that now. This conversation in Irish. How much of this do I get with my Welsh?
Agus tá éon áit na déim déna míocht sort sport na tíre sin deiscint. Chun chur a gomrád, agus tá náí bheith an tólas a gut có beachtas a bheith go a chluí hénach, thar éon chluthe eilech nach riamh. Ní léanaan chompráid idir amáint agus iad.
Nír.
Nóir im rítar go maithe, anna chluithe tán, agus buinem anna henne var fad as chluií amána bhíon go maithe, agus bíon rain bhacha cún gach éon bblion buchas ledí.
Déir me rá
Na lán stad vedí se bóla.
Vedí se bóla.
Bhí anna bheasa chuhéach, well, buinas tainna bhas an ócáid.
Or fear mór le sacarú.
Ní fear mór le sacr me.
I ben sport just slú simed an abi.
Well, just na gná cína ish, beidir rogger, pelgailach, amáint, sacr. An ceannas lo tusk will fear gauntanas the score now.
Right, I cannot understand what they're saying without the subtitles. I tried, and I can pick out bits more than I would say if I were listening to Polish or Greek. I got a lot more of this. A lot more than I would with those two languages, because it's Celtic, and I can pick out where the sentences are, when it turns from a negative statement to a positive statement. I think I can work that out. The English loanwords are obviously really easy, but they do it in a way which is similar to Welsh, like the score one. The word for any, what was that? Yeah, that's really similar to Welsh, but it's not mutually intelligible. It does sound like they conjugate prepositions. So like to it, with it, just like Welsh does, iddo, ganddo. But how they do so, I'm not entirely sure, but it's clear that they do that, and I can hear that. There was one thing. Are you a big fan of soccer? No. The way that they said that was really familiar to Welsh.
Fear mór le sacarú.
Pamor.
Ní fear mór le sacr.
Oh, ní famor. So they answer questions in a reflective way, just like Welsh does. Okay. That's really familiar to me in Welsh. Oh, Gaelic. Peldroid is football in Welsh. They have the same word for ball, apparently, or very, very similar. Okay, so I can't understand it, but I can get a lot of that without having much depth into the language at all. Certainly in structure, and the loanwords from English or Latin I get right away in Irish. Right, so what about just basic words? How similar are these? So let's look at animals, and that will tell us a lot about some of the core words of the language, how they've changed between these two Celtic languages. A bird. In Welsh, that's aderyn, and in Irish, it's completely different. Ean. But a cow, these are quite similar. Bo in Irish, and buch in Welsh. One that I found interesting was dove. In Welsh, collimen, and in Irish, colm. I'm pretty sure the dove bit here comes from Latin, but it's interesting that they both took that word. Goat is very similar, that probably is going to be pronounced gaver, in Welsh gaver, hoc, shebok, and in Welsh hebog. So those must be those come from Saxon actually, so that's really old. And you can tell that's old because the S and the H in Welsh, they match each other and the sound changes over time. Lamb, this looks like it comes from Latin, oan, and in Welsh, oen. So that's very similar. But the sheep part, when the lamb grows up, is completely different in the two languages. Ceora, and in Welsh, dafad. So that's completely different. But snake, in Welsh, neidr, and in Irish, naher. That's very similar. One of my favourite words in Welsh is gwywer, squirrel. One that I find striking is the word for rabbit. In Welsh, cwningin, and in Irish, coinen. Now, this has been said to come from Saxon or Old English, but I'm not sure, because does that mean that it's a loan word from Saxon into Old Irish as well? This may have just been an older Indo-European word. I don't know. Bear. In Welsh, arth. Lion. In Welsh, llaw. And in Irish, leon. Just to show you the deep influence of Latin on Welsh, the word for fish, yask in Irish, but in Welsh, pisgodin, which is from Latin. Irish is definitely less Latin than Welsh, and that shows here, but in some instances it feels like Irish is a bit more English than Welsh, actually, in some cases, which I find really bizarre. Pig, though, muc in Irish, moch in Welsh. Well, moch is plural, mochin, one pig. Ciarc, for a hen in Irish. Ciwyar, chicken meat in Welsh. It's interesting that Irish has a completely different word for dog, madra, compared to ci in Welsh, but they do have cw elsewhere. It means more hound, right? It means more hound. I think that's more literary. Old tales talk about cw in Irish. Let's look at numbers briefly, because it's Indo-European language and Celtic, so I imagine these would be very similar, but how similar? Okay? For naught, or 0, in Welsh, dim, and in Irish, noig, naj. 1, ein in Irish, un in Welsh. 2, do in Irish, and in Welsh it's die, or dwy. But when counting in Irish, you add a at the beginning. A ein, a do, 1, a 2, a 3, 3. 3 is the same in both languages. Irish has different sets of numbers for different objects, which I don't have time to get into. But counting in Irish is more difficult, so we're staying with just the standard masculine numbers here, okay? So 4, ceahir, and in Welsh, pedwar. There was a P and C shift. We'll see that a bit later on as well. Cwig, 5 in Irish, pimp in Welsh. The PC shift again. She, 6, chwech in Welsh. Seacht, 7. Saith in Welsh. Ocht, 8 in Irish. Wyth in Welsh. Neu, 9 in Irish. Now in Welsh. Die, 10 in Irish. And deg in Welsh. The numbers are quite close, as you would expect, but they're not quite close enough to be able to just pick it up by ear in every conversation. So these two languages are quite far apart. Now let's look at 3 simple sentences, basic, and we'll see how similar the verb to be is, okay? Bear with my pronunciation, I don't speak Irish. but this is the first one. His goose is dead so we can eat it. His goose is dead so we can eat it. Tage marv, Jonas gerveder, line aihe. Several things jump out at me immediately. So ta is clearly matching exactly to my, there is or is, the present tense of the verb to be. And then marv. This is clearly cognate with maru, to die in Welsh. There's a H in there which I'm not sure about. I think that's a mutation after a. And a seems like it's the masculine. And that makes sense to me, causing a mutation like it would in Welsh. Like o or e in Welsh. The second half of the sentence is less clear. Jonas seems to be therefore or so. Veidir sounds like vedri in Welsh. Medri. To be able to. In some cases it's used as. Lean. That sounds like with us. So there is ability with us. It. To eat. That's what I get from that, looking at it. The next one. The candle was in the window in the house on the hill. Vian choineal, savwyniog tateach, ar an knock. There's more than one mutation here, and Irish writes its mutations differently to Welsh. In Welsh, we don't explain in the writing that something's mutated usually. I mean, there's MH, things like that, but usually you wouldn't know that it's mutated from the writing. You'd know that it's mutated almost from like the sound or just usual use of the words. Irish explains it to you in the writing, so you have to know the orthography, right? So V sounds a lot like be, that had been, basically, in Welsh. A longer tense of a finished past tense. This is used, I think, like the Welsh past tense roedd, it was, and choineal, so an is the, like in Cornish. It looks like it's mutating the word for candle from choineal to choineal, but I don't know. Sa wyniog, there's a mutation there. In the is squished to sa. That happens in multiple languages, by the way, where you combine in and the of wyniog. Sa tie, in the house. Tie or teach, obviously cognate with t. So this makes me think that window in Irish is feminine, which would mutate, and house is masculine like in Welsh, which doesn't mutate. Aran gnock. So we can say knock in Welsh for like a nolly thing. I think that's the same word, basically. I guess it would be feminine in Irish. That's my assumption. The next sentence. The moon will be over the land. Beidhin Gaelach os cion natalun. Oh, there's a few things that happen here. So bathe is like breathe, and I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that well in Irish, but breathe in Welsh, it will be. An Gaelach. This word for moon here, I mean, it's mutating, it's feminine, but after an, I think of like Hail and Gola. There's an ancient root there that I'm not familiar with, that's clearly connected in both languages, but we use llead or lloer in Welsh for moon. Os cion, over. This makes me think of uwch ben in Welsh, above head, because cion sounds like it comes from something related to head, like pen in Welsh. But I could be wrong, that may be what this is, above or taller than head. Maybe it's the same construction in Irish. Na, the, there's multiple words for the in Irish, and they have a case system, so this may be happening there, I don't know. Talún, land. This makes me think of taller in Welsh, like a rise of land at the end of a field that's the shape of a tolkien, forehead. Well, as you can see, these are not mutually intelligible, but they are close enough to where if you are fluent in one or the other, you will be able to acquire the other language very quickly, in my opinion. Question. Do any of you speak either of these languages, and have you had exposure to the other one? What was your impression of these languages? For those of you who don't, which one of these two would you like to learn, and why? Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. And don't forget, there's Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee, which can help sustain the channel.